We're going to read this verse. To just read the translation. I mean, I can do the Sanskrit and we can do the translation. Ascharyavat paschati kaschidенam ascharyavat vadati tataiva chanyah ascharyavat chainamanya shranoti shrutvapenam vedana chaiva kaschit. This is an amazing verse because it talks about the amazing soul. So some look on some soul as amazing, some describe him as amazing, and some hear of him as amazing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. So going back to this verse today, because we need to first of all understand what is this soul that we're talking about. So I made a little preparation this is in connection with the last week's talk. And last week we were very much absorbed in this theme of the game. We're all good at playing the blame game. So we were flowing from that blame game to finding the key, the solution. And the solution was forgiveness. So that forgiveness also is connected to owning it. It's your life. Own it. One of my mentors often said that to me, like, own it, Sri Radha Govinda, own it. So today I am passing on that message to you. Own it, Deepa. Own it, Kishori. Own it, Khushbu. Own it, Sri Radha Govinda. Own it, you. Yes, you. Exactly you. Own it. This is your life. That's exactly what Krishna was encouraging Arjuna to do as well. Now, I want to bring up this concept of self. What does it actually mean, self? Why people don't understand what self is, and why do we actually, although we are super excited, Deepa, I'm gonna kindly request you to be the co-host so you can let people in.
Okay.
Because when I'm doing the screen share, I'm not able to.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was saying, regardless of how convinced we are, did I already go to slide 3? What can you see on the screen, by the way?
Slide 3 of 15.
Oh, no, that's not what I want to show. I have to go back.
You want one.
Okay. So yes, own it. It's your life, because the understanding of self, the concept of self, is extremely important before we move into the philosophical aspect of self. So today I'm going to be unpacking the self concept from different perspectives that is relevant in our everyday life, in our relationships, and in general. What are the blocks? Because that verse specifically speaks about that amazingness, but why people don't understand. Okay, next. So the verse is very important. Keep that verse in mind. So the self concept is comprised of one's conscious and unconscious, our abilities, our skills, our ideas, feelings, understanding, thoughts, our values, compassion, beliefs, attitudes, imagination. So when we say, what does it mean, self? So self-concept, it comprises of so many aspects, okay? So in Gita's own words, Krishna's summary, this is a paraphrasing what Krishna told Arjuna. Dear Arjuna, it's better to live your own life, your own destiny, even if it's imperfect, than to live someone else's life, even with perfection. So this is very important. Like, for example, this, what's his name? The Apple guy. What's the guy's name? It just doesn't click. The guy who invented Apple computers. What's his name? Somebody?
Steve.
Thank you. Steve Jobs. Yeah. So Steve Jobs, I think, said one thing, that before you get to clarity on what you want to do, you need to be clear about what you don't want to do. So like Mac, they are not company that they were producing furniture and windows and some things. They were very specific. They were producing computers, and of course today they have other things. But the concept is, we need to understand that I don't need to live your life. I don't need to live somebody else's life. I don't need to be somebody else. So before I understand what I need to do, I need to be clear what I don't need to do. So I don't need to live someone else's life. I don't need to imitate someone else's life, even if I can do it perfectly. Because the concept is often like, we think, I could do that better. There's that tendency to think like that. So no, that's what we are not. So then what is it? So we are kind of doing this dissection of the self. What does it actually mean? So before we actually dissect the perspectives and concepts of self, we need to be ready for introspection. And this, as for those of you who came in time, that's the quote that I read. The same author, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, emphasizes again and again that in order for us to improve and advance in spiritual life, we need introspection. So this guy is like, trying to look at himself, right? He's like pulling out himself and trying to take a look. Yeah. Any questions, anything so far? Because I can't see you when I'm screen sharing. Anything you want
this thing about living somebody else's life is what, when we compare to somebody else and think, I want this, or, and not really only because it's popular, not really thinking for yourself.
I think your question will be answered in the course of the whole presentation today.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so let me see if I can keep the gallery view when I speak. I think I can. Excellent. Okay, so today I want to share this point about elevating our self-image. So self-image becomes extremely important for us to do that dissection. Is it called dissect, or is it dissect, right?
The second one.
Yeah, dissect. Yeah. So we used to dissect animals in the biology class. So we need to dissect our the concept of self. We need to dissect and see, hey, what is this side of me? Because we have so many parts to us, it's not so easy to dissect it. So we are dissecting right now about self-image, because there's only one part of it. We're getting more deeper. Self-image based on inability. In other words, when we are focused on what we're not good at, when I'm focused about what about me I'm not comfortable, what about me is not so good enough, because we all have something that we are not good at. Okay, let's be honest. We all have something that we are not good at. Yeah. So how do I leave this? When I go like this, what happens? Are focused on what we are not good at. Can you still see my screen?
Yes, elevating our self-image.
Great. So let me take a step back. When our self-image is based on our inabilities, like I said, we all have something that we are not good at. And so if we highlight that as everything, and maybe we highlight, we or maybe somebody else is highlighting it for us. Maybe we were told by our parents again and again, you are not good at this, you are not good enough, whatever it is. Or we may be told by our social circles. People may tell us in our college and in our university, in our workplace, you don't got what it takes. So these may be self-image based on inabilities because of external feedback, parents, environment, etc. Especially what happens to us when we were kids, it does become part of what I think about myself as well.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a base for how I think about myself. So let's say, for example, if I have a low IQ, then it's obstructing me from doing good in, say, in academic tests and exams, etc. And so we may think ourselves as losers. We may think that I'm not good enough. Even I personally had that thing that in certain subjects I wasn't good. And so because my cousins were good at it, I was told again and again that you're not good at studies. But actually, it wasn't even true. Mm-hmm. What you can see here is the self-concept based on inabilities. It may be coming from outside, but it may not be true. But sometimes it is true. Let me say that also. Because they are often based on reality, but that reality is subjective. The reality is subjective to me being in a course of statistics and mathematics, and me being judged as not very smart. So it is a subjective reality. In that particular subject, yes, I don't have a high capacity. But it's not true with all aspects of our life. So although they reflect some part of reality, they don't reflect the full reality. This is the issue. Same comes true for the next one that you see, self-image based on our abilities. This is the modern day pumping us with this affirmations of self-confidence, of come on, you can do it, go do it, just do it. All these concepts. We all have certain things we are good at, right? And if those abilities are too much emphasized or emphasized so much that it becomes the central part of my self-image, then I may identify myself as a person with good IQ because I happen to be in a psychology class and I was faring really well, and I may consider myself as a topper. You see how subjective the whole thing is? The same person sitting in a mathematics class can think of themselves as stupid, and somebody sitting in another class can think themselves very, very good. So why the self-image based on ability is better, right, than inability. It's better to be in the mode of passion than to be in the mode of ignorance. In the mode of ignorance, we are focused on our inability. I'm not good at this, I made these mistakes, and I go on and on about that tamasik. Yet, even if this is better and it's empowering, as the graphic says here, this is, I'm sharing from Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's graphic, he made this. So he it says about self-image based on ability, although is more empowering than self-image based on inability, it is not stable. It is not reliable. Why? Because our ability may not be duly recognized, or it may be covered by someone else's ability, or it may just decline with time. I may be good in psychology today in today's class, but it doesn't mean that I can cling to it for the next year's syllabus. I can decline. So this is the problem, to rely on it. I'm just making a small note. I am not able to read chats or anything when I'm screen sharing. I don't have that thing. So if you want to bring something to my attention, just raise your hand and unmute yourself, please. Because I see that some message popped up, but I'm unable to read it when I'm sharing screen. All right. I'm in the flow. I'm going to finish the last one there. Self-image based on actual identity. So this is the Sattva Guna level where, Bhagavad Gita very clearly explains that beyond whatever we lack, whatever I have, whatever is my ability, whatever is my inability, I am indestructible self. This is Bhagavad Gita 2:17. So when our self-image is based on our spiritual essence, when we are identified with our connection to Krishna, connection to who I am truly, not just on abilities and inabilities, and then my sense of self is reliable. We are growing constantly. We are moving. We are unleashing our abilities, and we are becoming willing to be the best version of ourselves. Okay, so. Sorry, I was going really fast. So the conclusion of this graphic is this. If you base your self-image on abilities or inabilities, it's not going to bring you stability. Oh, that was poetic, actually. So self-image not based on inabilities, not based on ability, but based on our actual identity can bring us stability and progress. Okay, this is the graphic.
So basically it's ignorance first, passion second, and goodness.
Yes.
Third.
Yes. Yeah, so because why? Because we are indestructible. Mistakes or abilities or inabilities, it's not enough. Krishna is not done yet with who we are supposed to become. Each lifetime he's giving us some hits, like a stone sculptor who he keeps hitting, and every lifetime that it's taking shape and becoming a beautiful deity. All right.
I really like that the second one, empowering but unstable. That's the education system, isn't it?
Yeah, it's so true. So true. It is.
All of the education system.
So true.
Oh, God.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Okay. Now, we're moving further. here. This is something I found that I related to, and I wanted to explain what we just discussed in this perspective. Who am I? The self concept. Right now we're speaking more from a psychological perspective than a straight black and white philosophical perspective. So the self concept we discussed, there are so many aspects to self concept. Who am I? But then there is the segregation of, there is self concept, but then there is self esteem, which is more to do with outside world. Social stuff such as who am I? Am I a wife? Am I a daughter? Am I part of this group? I am, who I am as a social self. And then the knowledge. How can I explain and predict myself? Meaning, how much do I know about myself? How much do I know about my patterns? How much do I know about how my past is triggering me? All this stuff, right? Like a whole thing. And this is another thing I found. I'm just going to go over this, and any of you who have any questions about this, I can go back to the slide. Full self-acceptance, not estimating self, feeling balanced, task confidence, rational thinker. So when we have that full acceptance, we're not too dependent on our abilities, nor are we identifying with inabilities. But I'll show in the next slide that cycle, how this self-acceptance works. You may ask, right? Sometimes people are not devotees, they're just karmis, but still they're very sattvic. They have this progress in life. They're very self-aware, they're very self-accepting, they're very humble. So you may actually notice that people are not philosophically aware, but with the help of Sattva-guna, they're making that progress. Imagine when they get Krishna, that's the perfection, right? All this thing is just dust without Krishna consciousness. These are all zeros without a number, without Krishna. Okay, so the point here I'm trying to make is low self-esteem and high self-esteem, both are problems. Lack of confidence and overconfidence, both are problems. Why? Because lack of self-esteem is not you. It's a false you. Based on what they told you, what you believe, you're underestimating yourself. You're feeling inferior. And that's like not fair. This is not, it's not respectful to Krishna. And that low self-confidence will make you achieve or do less service, be less of service. You're not living your life. You're not living the life that Krishna has given you. So you're lost in this me, oh, I am so insignificant. So we get so lost in me being so insignificant. And then high self-esteem is also a problem because we overestimate self. We take step longer than our legs. And then you know what happens when you do that. And then
you say something about it being external. Is this esteem thing an external thing coming from outsiders?
Yes, it can come from different sources. Astrologically, it can come from somebody who has an inflated ego because of certain planets such as sun or something. They have to compensate. Maybe they did not have enough encouragement, so they had to compensate it by constantly telling themselves, narcissism and all that is one of the it's a way of compensating their lack of healthy nourishment. So overestimating ourselves, taking steps longer than our legs, it's also irrational thinking. You see how that works. Low self-esteem is irrational because you know what? You are the self. You are eternal self. Krishna has empowered you to live your life, and whatever challenges are coming, whatever blessings are coming, there is no question of self-esteem. You're supposed to live the life. I mean, we're supposed to live the life. So when low self-esteem comes, I become irrational. I start to give too much importance to the negative. So when high self-esteem gets in the way, again, I'm irrational. I forget that. So it's a tightrope walk. It's like walking on a very thin line of not falling for low self-esteem, but not also giving into overconfidence, but remaining humble that I'm here, willing to do Krishna's will. I'm willing to do Krishna's desire. Whatever is Krishna's desire, I'm willing. That means full acceptance. not this. I'm going to show you some slides coming up next later, but this is self-discipline, means your ability to listen to and take action based on your inner voice, regardless of how you feel, other influences or temptations you face, is the self-mastery. So this is a statement which is going to bring us again, dissect our, what does it mean, ability to listen to ourselves? How do I do that? How do I take action based on my inner voice? How do I know if it's my inner voice or my mind? So all these questions are relevant. They are very important questions. But usually women, as an astrologer also, I had a lot of experience with this. If women don't get our emotional life together, if we don't know how to handle our emotions, and if we somehow don't manage the tamas and rajas and come to that point of balance, to this, what this is saying here, listening to yourself, listening to that feminine side of the inner voice, the intuition. If we don't do that, no matter how much success we have, no matter how socially acceptable we look, all those things will just be piece of trash if we do not work on that inner connection, inner healing, inner connection to that inner voice. And that is what actually will bring us peace, fulfillment, and connection to Krishna. And it's the other way around also. The way to reach to that is through connection to Krishna. By connecting to Krishna in whatever form, in whatever way possible, we can come to that point of being able to listen to that voice, being able to push away all what society says, what the parents said, what people are expecting of me, what the social media is pushing me to think and do. We'll be able to keep all that away through connection to Krishna. And we can connect more to Krishna by becoming willing to provide the space for myself. It's like you all have done today, and I'm so grateful to you, because I'm also getting this opportunity this is a space. This is a space where I can actually explore and see, how do I go beyond this noise of this world? Okay, next.
And we've all done that, right? Like you say in the group right now.
Say that, Deepa, again.
I said what you just said, that we've all done that. So that's why we're in this group, isn't it? Listen to somewhat your inner voice. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard from one devotee how, because I was speaking about the Krishna connection and all, and the devotee wanted to join, and it's a male devotee, and I was like, no, this is only for women. And then the devotee was like, you guys are so fortunate, because you can create this kind of spaces where you can be vulnerable, you can go and get in touch with your inner voice, you can discover that side of you, be open, get help. Men, we find it so hard. Have you ever seen like men group getting together doing things? Never. It's only women who actually gather, come together, do stuff. So we're very fortunate that we are women, and we're very fortunate that we are like-minded. That somehow brings us into this situation. Okay, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here, because the next part of the presentation is a little bit more about how to do it and the skill part. But I want to take a pause here. I want to take a break here and see if you all have any comments or questions.
I just wanted to say what you said with the last bit. I think men do, but that's when they get into a lot of problems. When they're either drinking too much or
that's true.
Drugs, and then they form a group, or anger management and that kind of thing, but not otherwise.
It's harder for them.
So we do have an advantage there.
Because we know, if for a woman your emotions are in place, you can handle anything. And if your emotions are not in the right place, the best relationship, the best period, best house, best facilities, we don't feel good. And if you don't feel good, if your mind is not in a peaceful place, and we cannot do anything. even jobs and things, women may be good at it, how they bring up the number game in the companies or something. But if they don't have that internal fulfillment and internal stability, if they're not living their life the way they really need to live, but they are having wrong priorities and their life is imbalanced, it's all because of that emotional side. Okay, any concepts, any comments, any questions so far?
I think it's really interesting what you said about low and high esteem, that they're both irrational thinking.
Right.
I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah, this one here. Yeah, both are irrational. Yeah. Yeah, I also found that to be very interesting observation I have also made. I know people who are very high self-esteem, like overconfidence, but I've seen them very quickly taking that big step that their legs are actually shorter than the step that they've taken. Right? Like you take bigger step than your size of your leg. And then I've seen them crashing as well, and then they start blaming others, and like that. And then when you have low self-esteem also, there's a whole thing of playing victim. It's because of them, it's because of this person, and not owning it. Yes, Khushbu, go ahead.
I think it means that there is no such word as self-esteem. Instead, it should be only self-acceptance.
Let me see if I can put up that quote there. Okay, can you repeat that question? I want the exact words that you used. Can't find it. Can you say that question again? You're muted.
I'm just asking that is it really mean what is self-esteem, or instead of self-esteem, it should be self-acceptance?
Okay, let me
Because
show you this.
I heard from someone else, from some devotee, that there's no such thing as self-esteem.
See, these are words, okay? We need to be very clear how we define them. Then depending on how we define them, those words make sense or don't. Now, I don't have a very perfect image because I didn't prepare that in my presentation, but I want to show you something. I found something relevant to what I had in mind here. Okay, again, sorry for the quality of the image, etc. Look at this, okay? The self-concept divided into the person's self-perception can be kind of divided into three. There is self-image, in other words, how you see yourself, right? And then there is self-worth. It's about how you value yourself. And then there is the self-image when you're thinking about who you actually want to be. And then there is something about self-esteem is something that plays a big role in social situations. Self-image is something that you look at yourself, whereas self-esteem comes into play when you have to interact with another person. I couldn't find that specific. I had it. Let me just look if I can find that image. It was speaking about
I just mean
exactly.
to say that in perspective to Krishna consciousness, there is no self-esteem, I think, because so self-esteem for just you are saying that for the social purpose and all, but for being as an actual identity, we are a soul. So self-esteem, what it stands for a soul?
See, it's not that the devotee doesn't have self-esteem. It's not like that. It's just that the concept of self-esteem, it becomes very sattvic. It becomes very clear for a devotee. You see this one here, this one, you remember this one I was showing earlier. self-esteem, a sense of self-worth. So it's not that for a devotee you shouldn't have sense of self-worth. You need to understand you're a precious child of Krishna. You are unique. You have certain qualities that Krishna loves. This is a mistake that we sometimes do in devotional communities, to think that, oh, I should not think about myself at all. No, it's not that you shouldn't. What's that? The definition of humility is not to think yourself less. It's to think less about yourself. Or did I say it right? In other words, it's not about, oh, I am so insignificant, I don't have self-esteem. That is not humility. It's just that you're not concerned about those things. So you don't give importance to that aspect of self-esteem. I am this, I am that, I am great, I can handle. You don't give importance, but it doesn't mean that you don't have self-esteem. Does it make sense? It all depends on your definition of what you mean by self-esteem.
So what's your definition?
As I said, it's a sense of how much I value myself.
Can I add?
Yeah, please.
Right now, when we are identifying with our body and mind, our self-esteem is false. Like our self-esteem is fed by false pride and wanting to get attention, love, all those things. Like it's kind of low quality. But when it is connected to Krishna, when our identity is connected to Krishna, we are not just soul, we are soul. And as soul, we are servant of Krishna. We are lovers of Krishna. We are beloved. Krishna is our beloved. So that way, when we are situated like that, our self-esteem is of high quality, and it is fed by it's not fed by false pride and all those negative qualities, but it is fed by true emotion of wanting to serve Krishna and doing his will. That's the highest self-esteem. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, beautiful. Exactly like this Chaitanya Prabhu's graphic that I showed earlier, right? See this, Khushbu, this point about, this here, self-image based on actual identity, right? So we can also put this, like I would put it, self-esteem based on actual identity. So the word means is very important. What it means to you is very important. So if this means for me self-esteem based on my actual identity, yes, I have some abilities. Yes, I have some inabilities, right? Self-esteem means being aware of my ability and inability, right? And Bhagavad Gita teaching is don't identify with your ability, don't identify with your inability. Accept both. So yes, in one sense, is like you don't have to separate self-esteem when you are able to accept yourself as a servant of Krishna, like Vilas Manjari beautifully put it. If I accept myself as servant of Krishna, I don't care about all these things. My identity is I'm Krishna's servant. I'm a confident servant of Krishna. Why? Because Krishna's servants are confident. I'm a happy servant of Krishna. We don't separate happiness from Krishna. I am happy because I'm servant of Krishna. Whereas without that actual identity, I'm actually identifying with happiness. I'm identifying with unhappiness. So it's not reliable. But when I'm identifying with Krishna, happiness, distress doesn't matter. Self-esteem, lack of it doesn't matter. Why? Because I want to act according to Krishna's will. I don't want to depend on my ability. I want to depend on Krishna because the ability comes from Krishna. So self-esteem is a word to define one's self-worth. It's to define one's acceptance of their strength and weakness. So it's a very vague statement to say, oh, for a devotee, self-esteem is not important. We have to be careful to make such statements. It's like, excuse me, what do you mean by self-esteem? If self-esteem means accepting my ability and inability in relation to Krishna, of course I have self-esteem. But if self-esteem means to think that I'm separate and my ability is what I rely on, then of course it's not a devotee consciousness. Of course. So how I define self-esteem, self-confidence, if I define it like Vilas Manjari was saying, if I define it in relation to Krishna, it makes sense. Everything makes sense. But if I separate it nothing makes sense. Overconfidence doesn't make sense. Lack of confidence doesn't make sense because both are irrational. So, so self-esteem is, a devotee has a very strong, stable, unshakable sense of self-worth and self-esteem in relation to Krishna, if that helps as a conclusion. Okay.
Yeah, I understood. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, Deepa?
And where does self-acceptance in this?
So this, you see here, self-acceptance begins with your identity. So what are you going to accept? First, we need to accept I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm a child of Krishna. So if I'm a servant of Krishna, if I accept that, the whole package is already there. We don't have to struggle with it. But when I start identifying myself with number of followers, number of IQ, number of degrees, it's never ending game of inadequacy. It's an unending game of not being able to accept. But if I accept that Krishna's got a plan for me, Krishna has always had my back, he has always had a plan for me, then the self-acceptance is natural. But in today's world, people are trying the other way around. They're trying to first get self-esteem and then they're trying to find spirituality. But no, spirituality begins with it begins with who I am. Chaitanya Radas Samui Chaitanya Radas. Chaitanya Radas Samui Tan Radas Radas. That's our identity as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. We are servant of Lord Chaitanya and the servant of Lord Chaitanya. That's our identity. So with that, I accept whatever it takes to be the servant. Yes. Do I have flaws? Yes. Do I have strengths? Yes. But is that the point? No. We don't give importance to that. The highlight is not my strength, is not my weakness. The highlight is I'm servant of Krishna. It's beautiful, actually. It's a beautiful.
Yes, it's very nice. Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to the next part of the thing if nobody has anything else to say. Okay, the great part of this is that you cannot undo who you are. Let me repeat that. You cannot undo who you are. You cannot go back to yesterday and say, I wish I had done this. I wish I could change this. Being a servant of Krishna does not give me the power, ability, rights, or necessity to undo anything. I undo anything I did yesterday. I undo anything I did last lifetime, anything. There is no question of undoing, but you can rebuild your sense of identity. You can when you build a sense of rebuild that, oh, I'm Krishna's. I am Krishna's. That's the rebuilding that we need. So once that rebuilding can be done, you see, we cannot undo, but we can build it. We can build it. So this guy is building himself here. That was the idea. If you're wondering what she's talking about and what is this image. So the image is that representation of you cannot change who you were, but when we identify with the right master, I'm Krishna's, we can rebuild our faith. We can reconnect our abilities to Krishna. We can surrender our inabilities to Krishna. And even in that moment of me going to Krishna and saying, Krishna, I'm experiencing sadness and grief and envy and jealousy and lust and greed. Please take all these things away from me. I'm offering them at your lotus feet. I'm handing over my pain. I'm handing over my misery to you. Krishna accepts it gracefully. Right? So for him, it doesn't matter if we are offering him showers of glory and gratitude, or we are offering him with all the sadness we have and all the struggles that we got. He takes both. There is Vilas Manjari, can you remember that word? There is a garland that Krishna wears, and there's a Sanskrit name to it, and that means the one who wears the garland of like the opposite of praise, like complaints or he wears the garland. When devotees go to him and cry and lament, and he wears that garland proudly. That's Krishna. Yeah, so it's not that he only wants us to go with flowers and coconut and fireworks. He also accepts same with the same grace. When I go with Krishna, I'm suffering from envy, please take this away. Krishna, I'm suffering from anger, please take this away. He wears a garland of them. Oh yeah, garland of faults. Garland of faults. So he wears the devotee's faults. Not he doesn't. He's faultless, but devotees can have some faults, and he wears them gracefully, like proudly. He wears the garland that is actually it comes in Vishnu Sahasranam. That he's such an amazing person that he wears the garland of faults of his devotees. So we can rebuild our faith through both the processes of handing over our anarthas and also handing over our good emotions to Krishna. So this is a funny example, but you get an idea. You all have bad hair days. So somebody says, nice hair. It's the new shampoo. How many times we come across situations where we don't want to just gracefully say, nice hair, thank you. Right? As we grow, we get better at that game. Otherwise, we are playing, right? We are playing. Obviously, I want my hair to be good. Obviously, I want you to look at my hair and appreciate it. But then when you come and tell me you got nice hair, I say something to kind of escape that. Either to show that lack of self-esteem. I mean, it can be about anything. I picked specifically hair because it's the most superficial thing. It can be about your singing. It can be about your writing. It can be about your other accomplishments, right? We usually don't say, oh, thank you very much. You know why we're supposed to say as Vaishnavas, when somebody comes and tells us, oh, you wrote a nice article, it's a blessing. See, when it comes from a devotee, it's a blessing. So we receive it gracefully. We don't argue and say, no. There are so many other people writing better articles than me. Anyone could do this. It's nothing about me special. No, if we want to rebuild that connection to Krishna, we need to recognize, oh, great job. Oh, thank you. It's the mercy of Guru and Krishna. From today, you can do that. Try that. Go Pashtami. So try from today that. Just say, thank you. I accept this as a blessing. Graceful. No tamas, no rajas. There are people, I've done that sometimes. Say somebody says, oh, that's a nice book you wrote. I can just say, thank you very much. I accept this as a blessing and it's all mercy of Guru and Krishna. Instead, I could say, yeah, I wrote another book. Right? It can be in the mode of passion as well, right? So in tamas, I could say, no, it's not such a nice book, something. In rajas, I could say, oh, did you know about my other book? I mean, it's not bad to say I wrote another book, but it's the mood, the intention with which to present and say something like, yeah, even this Maharaj gave me a review about my book, yeah, it's great, to tell the person, you're saying it's good, but actually it's great. You see, I'm clarifying to you. So that's also a mode of rajas, which we should be careful. See, all this thing can only happen if we settle it within. If my identity is fixed that I'm servant of Krishna, I'm acting in relationship to Krishna, I want only things connected to Krishna, nothing else, emotions that will help me be Krishna conscious, emotions that helps me stay in touch with Krishna. Otherwise, I don't want it. If we don't come to that point, all kinds of external small situations will become big things. Okay, so again, just a quick summary. Self-concept, it has so many aspects. It has social aspect, it has the values aspect, it has the beliefs aspect, it has the abilities aspect, which we mostly focus today. It has the goals aspect, right? It has so many aspects. Okay, so I'm going to end my talk here. And if anybody has any comment or question, end of the show.
how do we, usually you tell us how it links with the Gita.
How it links with Gita. This verse that we read, 2.29, where Krishna is saying that the soul is amazing. I mean, some people think of soul as amazing. Some people know it as amazing, etc. But nobody understands it. Why? Why? Because it's not easy to dissect the concept of soul, to separate that sense of I, me, mine in this world is impossible. Hundreds of psychologists, hundreds of sociologists, hundreds of historians can all come together and they can still not figure anything out. But for a devotee who doesn't even know how to read or write, but can focus on the emotion of Krishna as Parthasarathi, who became the chariot driver to Arjuna. This is a real story that happened during the time of Lord Chaitanya. There was a Brahmana Pandit who basically was sitting and when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was coming and looking at who is most qualified scholar, right? And everybody was thinking, oh, it will be me. I have read so much. I know so much. And there was this person, illiterate. He cannot even read and write. So he was holding the Gita and he was filled with tears. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to him and said, why are you crying? And he said, oh, I'm just thinking of Krishna. You know, he's so merciful. As Parthasarathi, he became chariot driver to Arjuna. It's inconceivable. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, how can he do that? And then Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like, yeah, but you don't even know to read and write. You know, how do you get all this? He said, oh, it's just, my guru told me that I should read Gita. I don't know how to read, but I'm just, even just the thought of the whole context of the Gita is making me emotional. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared that he's the one who knows. So it's not the one who is expert in sociological aspects of understanding the self. It's not somebody who knows everything about psychology and why we have this childhood traumas and how we can heal our adult issues. And it's none of that which actually gives us it doesn't even give a glimpse to how amazing our self is, how soul is. But for one who accepts, I am child of Krishna, I am Krishna's, and Krishna is mine. See that togetherness. Not only I am Krishna's, Krishna is mine. Now, when you're chanting the holy name, Krishna is yours. When you're worshiping the deity, Krishna is yours. He becomes yours. He said it again and again in many, many scriptures, many, many examples. So when we accept that I'm Krishna's and Krishna is mine, abilities, inabilities, achievements, failures, success, heartbreaks, love, everything makes sense. That's the beauty of connection to Krishna. Yeah.
That's really nice point you just made.
There is nothing else that we can actually cling to, attach to in this world, any other existence, and anything that is there is connected to Krishna. That's the beauty of the soul as well. Anything else? Anybody else wants to say a comment?
And I just want to say that maybe whether I understood this topic or not. So in connection to Gita, if we think that the different people in the Gita, like Karan, Arjun, and all that. So if I look at the role of Karan, I think he's the person who has built his self-image on his inability, because he is always bothered about the family he was born in, like Sutput. So that's why he was always not use his power and he was not balanced. So I think he's the example.
Yeah. He's a best example of somebody who had the need to compensate for that. He didn't get it. So he was compensating with overconfidence. He was compensating with that sense of aggression and challenges. I mean, he was not obviously tamas. He wasn't just sitting there, right? He said, I can kill everybody. That was his mood.
But in a self, he has he always feel low. That's why he joined Duryodhan, and that's why he was so loyal to Duryodhan, because Duryodhan is the only person who has given him the higher position.
Definitely. I mean, Duryodhan gave because of his ulterior motives,
Yes.
but but yeah, Duryodhana, how do you say, Karna accepted it because of his lack of self-worth.
Lack, self-worth.
Whereas you see, Arjun didn't have that. I mean, even first chapter of Gita, he was a little bit tamastic. He didn't want to do it, but he never had that crisis about him, as he didn't have self-worth issues.
I think he was. I think the issue with Arjun is he does not know how to use his compassion.
Yeah, rightly said. I mean, he didn't say, I feel like I don't want to fight because I'm afraid. It was not, it was more about, he didn't doubt his ability. You see, that was not Arjuna's problem. Doubting his ability was never his problem. Why? Because he was fixed in his sense of identity. Then Krishna helped him handle all this external. But Karna or Duryodhana or others, Drona, they were not fixed in their identity. They were like, who am I serving? Oh, dharma. But the concept of dharma was very vague. It was not like pleasing Krishna. But for Arjuna, it became clear, okay, I will do what Krishna wants. And when you do that, when you say, I'll do what Krishna wants, Krishna, you do that in your own life also and see it. When we want to align to Krishna's will, he's the best friend, right? He's the best friend. So he looks at us and he knows exactly what we need. So he will give us what we need by giving us situations which actually nourish us. Meaning, it's not like he's some kind of sadistic, narcissistic God who's just sitting there and I go and give myself and then he's just suddenly going to give me some whatever, some kind of, he won't make a big rock fall on my head and kill me. You know what I mean? He's going to facilitate. Yeah. He's like, oh, finally you want to be happy? Come, my child. He's going to embrace us.
Can I just add something that I really, really enjoyed last week? Radha Govinda. I really like what you said about I am wanting what Krishna, I'm wondering or waiting or wanting, I'm not sure, what Krishna has planned for me. With that theme, I feel excited and adventurous. And I've been with that all week and it's really helped.
So true. Because he's the best friend.
Yeah.
You know, there is one Mataji, her name is Savitri Mataji. So she's like very much in that kind of Sakya mood. I don't know. Like, if you say anything like, why is Krishna doing this to me? You will anger her. She will fight. And she will just say, why are you saying like that? No, Krishna has the best plan for you. You just don't understand it. He will never, like, she will defend. And then once I asked her, and then she said, yeah, because Krishna is my friend. When Krishna says to Arjuna, I'm revealing the secret thing to you because you're my friend. So, you know, you have to be Krishna's friend. Then, you know, if somebody says something like, oh, I doubt Krishna, you're supposed to speak up and say, hey, I know Krishna. Krishna will always have a good plan for you. Don't say like that. Don't say why Krishna is putting me through this. You have to, you know, it's like, because when you, like, you know, imagine you have this best friend and your birthday is coming up, you know that best friend is going to throw you some surprise. When you know, you trust that person, right? And like, you're like, who knows what they have arranged for me, you know? Like recently it was some close friend's birthday and we had all planned a surprise and I sent like a bunch of roses to her door, right? So when you know that Krishna is your best friend, you know that he's planned some adventure, something ahead for you to realize something, for you to meet somebody, for you to, you know that, you know, you trust him. And then the journey becomes more adventurous. Yeah. I mean, if I can share on a personal note, This week and last week, I've been going up and down to Kolkata because I'm doing some university, like girls, young girls, university girls program. And I've been going by local trains. And I'm not used to that. Usually I go by car, or I go by reserved compartments, right? So the last times have been like, and I was in this mood, right? Okay, Krishna is going to take me through this adventure also. It was very interesting experience. I realized so much. I already kind of put 3 vlogs together, pictures of me in the crowded train and standing and my realizations from it. And all the ladies sitting, and once I couldn't get a ladies compartment, and so the experience in that compartment, and many things happened. Like some guy came and said, "Hey, get up, give that seat to me." I was like, "Excuse me, why is happening to me?" And I just got the seat. And then the guy's like, he didn't have legs. Like one leg wasn't working, something. So then I immediately complied because he was handicapped. And then I got up, and then I was like, why did he have to be so rude? But then immediately I realized, like, you know what? I'd rather prefer standing at a rude request than to be in his position. Right. And then I realized, like, he's hurting. He is hurt. He's wounded. He's suffering. He's struggling. Maybe he has to travel every day. And maybe he has to ask a seat from somebody every day. So he's so frustrated. So it's nothing about me, you see. It's not that I don't have self-esteem, that I should say, no, I deserve this seat, I'm not going to get up. Right? But I understood, okay, he's in pain. So what I'm saying is Krishna has some interesting adventures. And then I was preaching. Obviously, I started and I ended up talking to the women and telling them about Mayapur, and it was like preaching even in the train, right? So yeah, Krishna always has some better things than if I got once I missed the train, the reserved train I missed. And then I was like, oh my God, this is going to be so hard. But actually it ended up so good. That girl still keeps asking questions about Krishna. And it was like, Krishna had a plan. Krishna always has a plan, always. Yeah.